My wife went to the bank every Thursday at exactly 10:30 a.m. For 35 years of marriage, rain or shine, sick or healthy, she never missed it. When I asked why, she'd squeeze my hand and say the same thing every time. Just keeping our future secure. Michael, I believed her. Why wouldn't I? Susan was a financial planner. Numbers were her language, organization, her religion. Our bills were always paid on time. Our taxes filed early. Our retirement accounts, she assured me, were solid. The day she died, I was in the garage replacing a broken shelf. A voice I'd never heard from him before. Flat, careful, like he was afraid the words themselves might shatter me. Dad, you need to come to the hospital. Mom collapsed at the office. By the time I got there, Susan was already gone. Massive stroke. The doctor said she probably didn't feel much. Quick, clean, the way Susan would have wanted it if she'd had a choice. I didn't cry at the funeral. Everyone assumed I was in shock, that the grief hadn't hit me yet. But the truth was, simpler and stranger. I felt relief. Not because I hated her. I didn't. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the shock and the exhaustion and the casseroles people kept bringing over, I felt like I could finally breathe. I just didn't know why yet. 4 days after the funeral, a letter arrived. Plain white envelope, no return address, my name typed on the front. Inside was a single sheet of paper from Pacific Trust Bank. Dear Mr. Brennan, we wish to express our condolences regarding your wife's passing. Per the terms of the safe deposit box lease, we must inform you that you are listed as the secondary holder. The box has been paid through the end of the year. Please contact us at your earliest convenience to arrange access. I read it 3 times. We had a safe deposit box. Susan had never mentioned it, not once in 35 years. I called the bank that afternoon. The woman on the phone was polite, professional. Yes, the box was registered to Susan Brennan with Michael Brennan as co-holder. Yes, I could access it. Would Friday at 2 p.m. work? Friday, 2 days away. I spent them moving through the house like a ghost, opening drawers Susan had organized, looking at files she'd labeled in her precise handwriting. Everything seemed normal. Too normal, like a stage set, designed to look exactly like a life. Nathan came by on Thursday evening. He looked tired, his tie loosened, his eyes rimmed with red. He'd taken his mother's death hard. Dad, he said, settling into the kitchen chair where Susan used to sit, we need to talk about Mom's finances. I've been going through her office files, and there are some things that don't add up. My stomach dropped. What kind of things? He pulled out a folder. Inside were bank statements, investment reports, documents I'd never seen. Did you know Mom had 4 different checking accounts? 4? No, we only have the joint account. Had. Past tense. He pointed to a column of numbers. This account, it's been empty for 8 months. This one closed last year. This one was closed 18 months ago. And this one, he tapped a 4th statement, has a balance of $107. The room tilted slightly. That's not possible. That's not possible. Our retirement account alone should have over $350,000. Nathan's face told me everything before his words did. Dad, I can't find it. Any of it. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in the bed Susan and I had shared for decades, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through memories. The Thursday bank trips, her insistence on handling all the finances, the way she'd pat my arm and say, "Don't worry about the boring money stuff, Michael. I've got it covered." She'd had it covered. All right. Friday afternoon arrived, cold and gray. I dressed carefully, choosing a charcoal sport coat and khakis. Armor, not morning clothes. Nathan offered to come with me, but I said no. Whatever was in that box, I needed to see it first. Alone. The bank was a modern building, all glass and steel. The manager, a man in his 50s named Gerald, met me at the entrance. His smile was sympathetic, professional. "Hey, Mr. Brennan, I'm so sorry for your loss. Your wife was a valued client for many years." He led me down a hallway to the vault. The safe deposit boxes lined the walls like metal teeth. He used two keys, his and the one he'd given me, to open box 1163. "I'll give you privacy," he said, gesturing to a small room with a table and chair. The box was heavier than I expected. I carried it to the table, set it down, and for a long moment just stared at it. Plain metal, locked secrets, the summary of a marriage. I thought I understood. I opened it. Inside were folders, lots of them. The first one I pulled out was labeled Investments, Actual. My hands shook as I opened it. Page after page of losses, bad investments, failed stocks, risky ventures that had tanked. Hundreds of thousands of dollars gone. But these weren't accounts I recognized. These had Susan's name on them, only her name. The second folder was worse. Home equity loans. 4 of them taken out against our house, our home, the place where I'd raised my children and built the back deck and repainted the living room, 3 different colors over the years. Total debt, $315,000. I couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, the walls pressing in, and the third folder nearly broke me. Credit cards. Michael's accounts. Except I'd never opened these accounts, never seen these cards. But there was my name, my social security number, my forged signature. 18 different cards, all maxed out. Total balance, $112,000. She'd stolen my identity. My wife, the woman who'd held my hand through my father's funeral and my cancer scare and our daughter's wedding, had committed fraud using my name. I sat there for a long time, just breathing. In, out, trying to anchor myself to something real. At the bottom of the box was an envelope, thick, cream-colored, my name written in Susan's handwriting on the front. I opened it with steady hands. The grief, the shock, all of it had burned away. What was left was something colder, clearer. Inside was a letter. "Michael, if you're reading this, I'm already gone. And you found the box. I'm sorry. That's inadequate, I know, but it's all I have. 6 years ago, I made an investment I was sure would pay off. It didn't. I tried to fix it. Every Thursday, I went to the bank trying to restructure, trying to find a way out, but I just dug us deeper. The house loans, the credit cards in your name. I did it to buy time. I thought I could fix it before you ever had to know. I was wrong. By the time you read this, we're probably bankrupt. The house will likely go into foreclosure. Your credit is destroyed. I know you'll hate me. You should. I was trying to protect you from my mistakes, but all I did was make you pay for them. I'm sorry. I love you." That part was always real. "Susan." I folded the letter, placed it back in the envelope, and put everything back in the box. Then I walked out of that room with my spine straight and my jaw set. Gerald was waiting. "Are you all right, Mr. Brennan?" "No," I said honestly, "but I will be. I need copies of everything in that box, and I need the name of a good lawyer who handles financial fraud." His eyes widened slightly, but he nodded. I'll make the copies myself. And Mr. Rampton's sixth toy. Brennan, I'm truly sorry. By the time I got home, Nathan's car was already in the driveway. He met me at the door, his face tight with worry. Dad, I found something else. Mom's life insurance policy. Don't tell me, I said, setting my keys down with more force than necessary. There isn't one. He blinked. How did you know? Because your mother spent the last 6 years destroying everything we built, and apparently she was very thorough about it. I walked past him into the kitchen, pulled out the copies from the bank, and spread them across the table. Sit down. We have work to do. Nathan read through everything, his face going pale, then red, then pale again. When he finished, he looked up at me with tears in his eyes. Dad, this is bad. This is really, really bad. I know. The house, your retirement, your credit, everything is gone. I know. How are you so calm? I sat down across from him, folded my hands on the table. Because anger is useless right now. What I need is a plan. The lawyer's name was Daniel Okonkwo. Gerald from the bank had recommended him specifically for cases like mine. We met in his office the following Monday, a bright space with windows overlooking downtown Seattle. He listened without interrupting as I walked him through everything. The safe deposit box, the loans, the credit cards, the forged signatures, Susan's letter. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. Why'd? Mr. Brennan, I'm going to be direct with you. This is one of the worst cases of spousal financial abuse I've seen, and I've seen many. The word hung in the air. Abuse. Your wife systematically destroyed your financial security and did it in your name. That's not just mismanagement. That's fraud. It's identity theft. It's a crime. But she's dead, I said. What can we do? We can prove you weren't complicit. We can work with the creditors to show the signatures were forged. We can potentially save the house by demonstrating the loans were fraudulent. But it's going to be a fight. How long? 6 months, maybe a year. And it's going to cost money you probably don't have. I thought about the $127 in our checking account, about the empty retirement funds, about the pile of debt with my name on it. Then I thought about the letter, about Susan's careful handwriting, about 35 years of, "Don't worry, Michael. I've got it covered. I'll find the money," I said. "Tell me what we need to do." That night, Rachel called. My daughter had always been closer to her mother than to me. When I told her what I'd found, the silence on the other end of the line stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. "Dad," she finally said, her voice small, "are you sure? Maybe there's an explanation. I have the documents, Rachel. I have her letter admitting to it. But Mom wouldn't do that. She loved you. She loved us." "She did," I said. "And she also stole my identity and destroyed our financial future. Both things can be true." She hung up shortly after. Nathan called me an hour later to tell me Rachel had called him crying, insisting I was wrong, that I was speaking badly about Mom, that grief was making me irrational. "She'll come around," Nathan said. "Give her time." But I wasn't sure because I'd seen this before in other contexts with other families. The person who refuses to believe, the one who needs the lie to be true because the truth would shatter something fundamental in them. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork and phone calls and meetings. Daniel filed reports with the credit bureaus, contacted the credit card companies, gathered evidence of the forged signatures. We hired a handwriting expert who confirmed what I already knew. I hadn't signed those applications. Nathan threw himself into helping me. He organized files, made spreadsheets, attended meetings. One evening, as we sat at the kitchen table going through another stack of documents, he looked up at me. "Dad, I need to tell you something." I set down my pen. "Okay." A few years ago, Mom asked me to invest in something with her, a real estate development. She said it was a sure thing, that we'd make a fortune. I had $40,000 saved for the kids' college fund. She wanted me to put it all in. My heart sank. "Nathan, please tell me you didn't." I almost did. But Chloe, his wife, she didn't trust it. She said, if it was such a sure thing, why did Mom need our money? We fought about it. I was so angry at her, but she held firm. I told Mom no. He looked at me with haunted eyes. I think she was already in trouble then. I think she was trying to use my money to fix her mistakes. And if I'd said yes, we'd have lost everything too. I reached across the table and took his hand. "But you didn't. Chloe saved you. That's what matters. Do you think she would have kept going, taking from other people?" I thought about the letter, about Susan's words. I think she was drowning, and drowning people grab onto anything they can reach, even if it pulls someone else under. 3 months after Susan's death, we had our first victory. 3 of the credit card companies agreed the signatures were forged and removed the debt from my credit report. It wasn't much, but it was something. Proof that the truth could win, even if slowly. Rachel still wasn't speaking to me. She'd sent a short email saying she needed space, that she couldn't handle the way I was destroying Mom's memory. I'd replied, "I understand. I love you." She hadn't written back. The lawyer for the home equity loans was harder to fight. They argued that, as Susan's spouse, I'd benefited from the money, even if I hadn't signed the papers. Daniel countered that I could prove I'd never seen the funds. They'd gone into account solely in Susan's name, spent on investments that failed before I knew they existed. "We're going to have to go to court," Daniel said during one of our meetings. "A judge will have to decide if you're liable for debt created through fraud, even though you were married to the person who committed it. Will we win?" He hesitated, and I appreciated his honesty. "I think so, but I can't guarantee it." This is complicated legal territory. The court date was set for late October, 6 months after Susan's death. In the weeks leading up to it, I did something I hadn't done in years. I looked for a job. At 62, I wasn't exactly a hot commodity. I'd taken early retirement from my engineering firm 3 years ago, looking forward to travel and grandchildren and the quiet years I'd earned. Instead, I was applying for positions at hardware stores and home improvement centers, anywhere that would hire someone who needed to rebuild from nothing. A small independent hardware store on the east side called me in for an interview. The owner, a man named Franklin, was probably 75, with weathered hands and sharp eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "So," he said, looking over my sparse resume, "you were an engineer. You've been married for over 3 decades, and now you're looking for work." May I ask why? I could have lied, made something up about boredom or wanting to stay active. But I was tired of lies, even kind ones. My wife died 6 months ago. I just found out she stole my identity and destroyed our finances. I need a job because I'm trying to avoid losing my house. Franklin set down the resume and looked at me for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Ha ha, when can you start?" I worked at Franklin's hardware store 3 days a week. The pay wasn't much, but it was something. More importantly, it gave me a place to go, a purpose that wasn't just survival. I liked helping customers find the right tools, explaining how things worked, feeling useful. Franklin and I became friends. One slow afternoon, he told me about his own marriage, which had ended in divorce 25 years ago. She wasn't dishonest about money, he said, restocking the electrical aisle. She was just dishonest about everything else. Other men, other lives, other versions of herself. When I finally left, everyone told me I was overreacting, that all marriages had problems, that I should try harder. He looked at me. But you know what I learned? The people who tell you to try harder are usually the ones who've never had to try at all. The court hearing was on a Tuesday, cold and damp with the threat of rain. Nathan came with me. Rachel didn't. And she'd sent a text the night before. "I can't watch you do this to Mom's name." "I'm sorry," I'd replied. "I understand. I love you." She hadn't written back. The courtroom was smaller than I expected from TV shows. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Patterson, listened to both sides present their arguments. The bank's lawyer argued that I was Susan's spouse, that I'd lived in the house, that I'd benefited from the marriage, even if I hadn't directly benefited from the loans. Daniel stood and in a calm, clear voice destroyed that argument piece by piece. He showed the forged signatures, the expert testimony, the separate accounts, the pattern of deception. He showed Susan's letter, her own admission of fraud. Then he called me to the stand. "Mr. Brennan," he said, "when did you first learn about these loans?" "When I opened the safe deposit box after my wife's death." "In 35 years of marriage, did your wife ever discuss taking out equity loans on your home?" "Never." "Did you receive any of the money from those loans?" "No." "It went into accounts I didn't know existed." "Did you sign the loan applications?" "No, I did not." The bank's lawyer stood for cross-examination. She was young, probably in her 30s, and she had the polished aggression of someone who'd never really lost anything. "Mr. Brennan, isn't it true that you trusted your wife with the finances?" "Yes." "So, you chose not to be involved in financial decisions?" I met her eyes. "I trusted her." "That's not the same as choosing to be defrauded." "But you benefited from the marriage." "You lived in the house. Those loans were taken against." "I lived in my home." "Yes." "The one my wife and I bought together 37 years ago. The one she put at risk without my knowledge or consent." "You expect us to believe that in 35 years you never suspected anything?" That was the question, wasn't it? The one I'd been asking myself for 6 months. I took a breath. My wife was a financial planner. She was good with numbers, organized, trustworthy. Or so I thought. She hid her mistakes behind competence, behind my trust, behind 35 years of me believing that love meant not questioning, not doubting, not looking too closely at the things she told me not to worry about. I paused. Was I naive? Probably. But naivety isn't consent to fraud. The judge called a recess. We waited in the hallway. Nathan pacing, Daniel checking his phone, me sitting perfectly still on a wooden bench. "You did great, Dad," Nathan said. I nodded, but I wasn't thinking about my testimony. I was thinking about Rachel, about the daughter who couldn't accept what her mother had done, who needed the lie more than she needed the truth. After an hour, we were called back in. The judge looked at both lawyers, then at me. "I've reviewed all the evidence," she said. "The forged signatures, the expert testimony, the defendant's own written admission. While I understand the bank's position regarding spousal benefit, I cannot ignore the clear evidence of fraud committed without Mr. Brennan's knowledge or consent. I'm ruling in favor of the defendant. The loans are void. The liens on the property are released." Nathan grabbed my hand. Daniel smiled, and I felt something that had been clenched tight in my chest for 6 months finally release. We'd won. But walking out of that courthouse, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired. Tired and older and strangely empty, because what had I won really? My house? Yes. My name cleared? Yes. But I'd also lost a marriage I thought I understood, a partner I thought I knew, and maybe a daughter who couldn't forgive me for telling the truth. That night, Rachel called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Dad," her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. "I need to tell you something." "Okay." After the hearing today, I went to the bank. I asked to see Mom's records, the ones you showed the lawyer. I wanted to prove you wrong. She took a shaky breath. "But you weren't wrong. It was all there. Everything you said. And there was more." "More?" "She had a credit card in my name, too. I never opened it, never saw it. But it's there. 31,000. My credit is ruined. And I never even knew." Oh, Susan. Even from the grave, her secrets kept spilling out. "Rachel, I'm so sorry. I should have believed you. I should have listened. I couldn't imagine Mom doing that. She was my mom. She taught me to bake cookies and helped me with my college applications and held my hand when Emma was born. How could that person also be this person?" "Both people were real," I said softly. "The good mother and the woman who made terrible choices. People aren't just one thing." She was quiet for a moment. "Can I come over?" "Of course. Anytime." An hour later, my daughter sat at my kitchen table and I made us tea and we talked. Really talked. About her mother, about the debt, about how love and betrayal can exist in the same person. How sometimes the people we trust most are the ones who hurt us deepest. Not because they're monsters, but because they're human and flawed and desperate. Daniel helped Rachel file the same fraud claims I had. Nathan pulled us all together. All three of us, sitting in my living room, going through documents, making plans, rebuilding. "We'll get through this," Nathan said. And I believed him. Not because it would be easy, but because we were finally telling the truth, finally seeing clearly, finally not pretending that silence meant peace. The hardware store became my sanctuary. Franklin taught me about running a small business, about inventory and ordering, and the quiet satisfaction of helping someone fix something broken. One day, a man came in looking lost. "Can I help you?" I asked. He hesitated, then said, "Do you have anything about home repair?" I need to fix some things." Something in his eyes told me he wasn't talking about drywall. I walked him to the how-to section, pulled down 3 books, and then on impulse said, "I have experience with rebuilding. If you want to talk." We talked for an hour. His story was different from mine, but the pattern was the same. Control disguised as care. Isolation disguised as protection. Manipulation disguised as love. When he left, he shook my hand. "Thank you for believing me." After he left, Franklin looked at me. "You're good at that." "At what?" "Listening. Believing. Not judging." I thought about Rachel's initial reaction, about the friends who'd pulled away when I started talking about Susan's fraud, uncomfortable with the messiness of it. "I know what it's like to not be believed," I said simply. Over the next few months, more people came to the hardware store. Word had somehow spread that there was someone there who understood, who'd been through it, who could point them toward resources and lawyers and the truth that they weren't crazy. They weren't imagining it. They weren't alone. Franklin and I started a small support group that met once a month in the back room of the store. Just a circle of chairs and coffee and people telling their stories. Financial abuse, emotional abuse, the quiet kind that doesn't leave bruises but leaves you hollow. I shared my story at the first meeting, all of it. The Thursday bank trips, the safe deposit box, the forged signatures, the court battle, the daughter who initially didn't believe me. The reconstruction of a life I thought I'd had figured out. "How did you stay strong?" someone asked. "I didn't," I said honestly. "I cried. I was angry. I was terrified. But I kept moving forward anyway because the alternative was giving up, and I'd spent too many years letting someone else make my choices." The group grew. 8 people, then 12, then 18. We shared resources, phone numbers for lawyers, tips for rebuilding credit, strategies for dealing with family members who didn't understand. One evening after a particularly good meeting, Franklin and I sat in the empty store drinking beer from paper bags. "You know what you're doing, right?" he said. "Running a support group, building a legacy. Susan tried to destroy you, to leave you with nothing. Instead, you're helping other people avoid the same fate. You're taking what hurt you and using it to help others." He raised his bottle. "That's not just survival. That's transformation." I thought about that word, transformation. I'd spent so much energy trying to get back to who I was before, trying to reclaim the life Susan had stolen. But maybe that wasn't the point. Maybe the point was to become someone new, someone forged in the fire of betrayal and loss and the hard work of rebuilding. A year after Susan's death, I stood in the hardware store at our support group's anniversary meeting. 19 people in a circle. Some I knew well, others new. All of us connected by the common thread of having trusted someone who broke that trust. "When my wife died," I said, "I thought my life was over." In a way, it was. The life I thought I had, the marriage I believed in, the future I'd planned, all of it died with her. But something else was born. Not immediately, not easily, but gradually. I looked around the circle. What she did to me was wrong. Legally, morally, ethically wrong. And I won't pretend otherwise. But what I did next, that was my choice. I could have stayed angry, stayed a victim, stayed stuck in the betrayal. Instead, I chose to move forward, to rebuild, to help others, to transform pain into purpose. After the meeting, a young man approached me. He couldn't have been more than 30, his eyes red from crying. "My wife handles all our money," he said. "She says I'm not good with numbers, that I should just let her take care of it. But something feels wrong. I don't know what, just wrong." I put a hand on his shoulder. "Trust that feeling. Ask questions. Look at the accounts. Don't let anyone, not even someone you love, keep you in the dark about your own financial life." He nodded, crying harder. "What if I'm wrong? What if I'm just being paranoid?" Then you look foolish for 5 minutes, and then you move on, secure in the knowledge that you are protecting yourself. But if you're right, and you don't look, I squeezed his shoulder, you could lose everything. He came back the next month with documents in hand. His wife had been taking money from their joint account and putting it into online gambling. She swore she could quit. She'd lost $65,000. He'd filed for divorce the day before. "I'm terrified," he told me, "but I'm also free." I knew exactly what he meant. Rachel's credit was eventually cleared, just like mine. Nathan invested the $40,000 he'd saved back when Susan tried to get him involved in the failed real estate deal into a college fund for his kids, locked tight where no one else could touch it. And me? I kept working at the hardware store, kept running the support group, kept moving forward. On what would have been my 36th wedding anniversary, I went to the bank, not Pacific Trust, where the safe deposit box had been, a different bank, one Susan had never walked into. I opened an account in my name only, just my name, and I deposited my paycheck from the hardware store. Modest, but mine. The teller smiled at me. "Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mr. Bashan?" "Brennan, actually," I said, "I'd like to change my name on the account." "Not Brennan. My name before the marriage." She looked confused. "Your maiden name?" I smiled slightly. "My original name, Michael Sullivan. Because that's who I'd been before Susan, before the marriage, before the 35 years of trust that turned to ash. And that's who I was going to be moving forward. Not erasing the past, but reclaiming the parts of myself I'd set aside." I walked out of that bank with my head high, and for the first time in a year, I felt like I knew exactly who I was. If you're reading this, if any of this sounds familiar, the locked doors, the secrets, the feeling that something's wrong but you can't quite name it, trust yourself. Ask questions. Look at the documents. Don't let anyone tell you that love means blind trust, because it doesn't. Love means partnership, transparency, respect. And if you find out you've been betrayed, if you open that safe deposit box and your world falls apart, remember this: you are stronger than you know. The person who tried to erase you didn't succeed. You're still here. And that means you can rebuild. I did, and so can you.